Brought to you by Tailored Wealth, helping business leaders live their version of a rich life.
Welcome to another edition of the Making Sense of Your Money podcast, where we cut through the financial noise and help business leaders to make smart, confident money decisions. Welcome to episode number 23 of the Making Sense of Your Money podcast. I'm your host, Dan Pascone. I'm the founder and CEO of Tailored Wealth, and each of our episodes features a trusted voice in the financial world, someone who works directly with high-level professionals to simplify the complex and turn strategy into action. And today, I'm really excited to have a special guest, an old friend actually. We've got with us Dan Wice, and Dan is an independent insurance advisor, and in my opinion, one of the more knowledgeable folks in the insurance industry that I've come across. I'm excited to tap into that wealth of knowledge today. So Dan, thanks for joining us on the Making Sense of Your Money podcast. Good to have you, brother.
Good to have you. Good to see you. Thanks for having me on. Very excited to have a fireside chat without the fireside.
There you go. That works. Let's do that.
Absolutely.
Let's do that. All right. So I know we've got a lot to cover, and our audience is going to want to hear a lot about what you do, but just give us like a quick 90-second overview of what you do, what your business does, who you serve, and maybe a little bit of your background on how you got into the space.
Absolutely. Thanks. So, I use my 30 years of industry experience. The last 15 or so have been on the retail side of the business. I'm an independent insurance advisor focusing on the risk management aspect of the financial planning process. So I partner with financial advisors, trusted estate attorneys, financial people that are in the accounting side, the CPA world, matrimonial attorneys, anyone that really could impact or have a client that is in need of some type of risk management strategies, whether it's they're earlier on in life or approaching retirement. And I'm independent in the sense that I can work with over 40 different insurance companies and bring to the table a solution that is customized and fit. I never come into a conversation with any fixed agenda or any fixed solution that I think someone might need without asking lots of questions and educating them on what's available in the world, what's available in them in the insurance world to help them meet their
great summary. And I can speak from personal experience because at Tailored Wealth, we've utilized Dan's services for several of our clients where we felt like him and his team's expertise would be valuable in helping us to find the right risk management solutions. Let's talk a little bit about the end client, Dan, right? Whether you're engaging with a wealth manager, an attorney, a CPA, whatever the case may be. Tell us a little bit about what the ideal end client looks like for you, and then walk us through the process that you go through to help them to get the right risk management solutions for themselves, their family, their life, et cetera.
Absolutely. So I spend a lot of time with whoever the advisor is that's bringing me into the conversation and asking a lot of questions about the client or the couple that I'm working with, asking them, where are they in life? Are they newlyweds with just buying their first time home, having children, and maybe they just moved to the area or just got a new job and are looking to protect their family from that, God forbid, event if something happens earlier on in life, more from an income replacement need, to the clients that are in their late 40s to early 60s that kind of see the light at the end of the tunnel for retirement needs. They know that they're going to get to where they need to be, what things could trip them up along the way. And usually in their 50s to early 60s, it's talking about a long-term care event. What could create this issue in retirement of them having to spend down their nest egg. Perhaps it's the client that is fortunate enough to have the high net worth that they need to do some estate planning, and they need to do some tax planning to help create liquidity when they pass, to help their heirs and anyone else involved to have the liquidity to help settle their estate. Perhaps it's someone that's going through a divorce and they've never had to deal with their finances before, and now they're having to reinvent themselves, and they never had a need for insurance. Now they do need and it's both sides of the coin. It could be the one spouse that's now going back to work, could be the one spouse that has now this financial obligation, and part of the settlement might be to have life insurance in place. Overlooked often is disability coverage. A lot of people have disability coverage through work. So it might be a conversation where they have coverage through work, but they're making significant income. So we talk to them about, some alternative strategies that are out there. It's really anyone and everyone that goes through a life-changing event that creates the opportunity for them to bring me into the equation. And I call it doing a forensic review of what they currently have in insurance. And it starts with a simple question of when's the last time you reviewed your insurance coverage? And that could kind of go in a numerous ways.
All right, very good. That's a great baseline. So I want to talk about like maybe two different typical customers for you. So we're going to start with the more simple. I think most of the consumers and investors out there think about life insurance as a way to just kind of protect your family.
Yep.
So let's start with that simpler version, the traditional use case, and then we'll talk about something where there's a little bit more planning involved. But
Right.
What are the things that you're looking for when you're evaluating the right coverage, the right carrier, the right needs for, let's call it a young and growing family that's got, pretty sizable income and just wants to be able to protect the family?
Absolutely. And that's really a majority of who I talk to. It's the younger clients, and young is what does young even mean? But
Right.
It's typically the younger couple that's had some events that have happened. They have children, they bought a house, they got a new job, and they've never been asked about what do they have for life insurance. And usually it's the response is, well, I checked the box when I did my benefits at the end of the year, and I'm getting 2-3 times my salary, and I'm good. And they don't realize that if they were to leave that job, or a company could change the benefits package at any point in time, really, if something, God forbid, happened to them, could they survive on 1 to 2 times their salary that they could get? So it's a conversation really that asks them a bunch of questions as to what else do they have going on, because often it's not asked. Do they have college savings taken care of? Do they have a mortgage? Is their spouse working or not? So how many kids do they have? Are they going to have more kids? So all of those factors come into play to kind of come up with, does it make sense for 10 years of coverage or 30 years of coverage? And what multiple of their income is really going to be allowing their family to live comfortably and not have to, change their lifestyle if something happened along the way. So that's where we have a lot of questions. And I usually put people at ease with telling them there's no right or wrong answer to these questions either, because it's unique to everyone. I've met with one couple that has college taken care of. They have no mortgage. They're making great income and they're living within their means, to the other end of the spectrum where there's been no college savings. They have a huge mortgage. They are making great money, whatever it might be, but they're living beyond that income that they're getting. So they even have a larger need for life insurance. And so sometimes we might ladder term insurance and do a 10, 20, and 30 years so that they have the bulk of their coverage now for the next 10 years. And then some of it starts to fall off just to help maybe with the expenses of it. I often find that it's a lot less expensive than what the individuals I'm talking to think it's going to be. They have no idea how much it even costs. Maybe they did some research, but we'll go out to the marketplace. The other thing that comes up often is asking, because it is life insurance, you have to ask the questions about underwriting. And is there anything that might impact the underwriting process? And there are obviously things from a health perspective. There also are hobbies that people might do that could impact. Maybe they fly a plane or like skydiving, or they ride a motorcycle. There's certain factors. And again, I go back out to the marketplace working with over 40 carriers to see who's going to look at that situation in the best light and price it out. Bless you. So we have a very open conversation, and I never come into the premise of, hey, this is what you need to have before I have that conversation. I also get brought into conversations like this because they've been pitched a solution from someone that came to their company, and more often than not, they're being shown a whole life policy, which has its place. I do a lot of whole life business, but it's some type of whole life policy that does not necessarily suit their need. And that's maybe part of a later part of this conversation.
Yeah, no, I actually want to dig into that right now, because you actually transitioned right where I was going to go. So I hear a lot of, I've been pitched an insurance policy, right? Yep. And I think to some degree that gives the insurance industry a little bit of a bad rap. So Absolutely. I want you to just kind of break down the types of insurance that exist out there in the marketplace, and then maybe just quick high level overview of like when something may be appropriate so that our listeners can get an idea for, did you just get pitched by something because somebody was going to make a commission, or is it truly something that you should consider within your broader financial?
Absolutely. I mean, it's a conversation I have at least once a day with someone.
Sure.
Yeah, there's a lot of insurance agents out there, and I'll call them an agent because they represent one company and they have a sales manager. I don't have a sales manager looking over my shoulder to look at what my numbers are every week, every month, throughout the year. Yes, I have in mind a goal. I mean, everyone in any business should have set a goal to what they want to accomplish for the year, and that kind of measures your success. But I don't have that sales manager barking over my shoulder telling me sell whole life, sell permanent policies. It pays you more than a term policy. So a lot of insurance agents come into a conversation. They'll do lunch meetings at a company. They'll do cold calling and try and sell someone a whole life policy without asking. And they're working in a silo and not asking them, what else do they have going on? Do they work with a financial advisor? All of these other things in place to make doing a whole life policy or some type of permanent policy make sense. There are, in very high level, two types of insurance. There's term insurance, which is the least expensive, temporary, covers you anywhere between 10 to 30 to maybe 40 years. There's no benefit unless, unfortunately, you need it. The value is it protects you the most economic way. That's probably what 95% of the people out there that need life insurance could use. On the other side of the coin is permanent insurance. And under permanent insurance, there's many different types of insurance coverage. It's just no different than what you do when you're working with your clients to build a nest egg or invest for them. Are they conservative or aggressive? Do they want to use fixed income investments, cash holdings, bonds, or do they want to be in the equity market? And then there are some alternative strategies that are out there. In the insurance world, on the permanent side, there are whole life policies, which is the most conservative approach that you could take to life insurance. It's typically sold by a mutual company where they pay out dividends and share their profits each year with the policy holders. It's pretty conservative by nature that we can look at an illustration and say with almost certainty, this is what it's going to look like 10 years, 20 years, 30 years from now. And this is what kind of goals that it could be structured to do is going to be. And then you can have a universal life policy, an index universal life policy, and a variable universal life policy. And the difference between those three is how does the cash value inside of the policy grow over time? And again, it could be very conservative where it's based on a interest rate environment or an index, or it could be in a variable life type policy where you're investing in mutual fund like investments. The key is with those permanent policies is how do you want to structure it? Most of the time, they're not structured the right way. If you're doing a permanent policy, there's two reasons, or there's many reasons why, but one of the reasons why is because you want a permanent death benefit. In that case, you don't care what the cash value does. You're focused on, for the least amount of premium, I want to get the most amount of death benefit. And that's something that you do for estate planning or business planning or succession planning. Or I know my client wants to leave each one of my grandkids $500,000, so we buy a policy and that's what it's going to do. There are other reasons why you're going to use a permanent policy to take advantage of the way a policy is taxed or an insurance policy is taxed. And it works a lot like a Roth investment or a Roth IRA, where you're using after-tax dollars to build cash value with the intention of taking tax-free income down the road. When I see people that are pitched these types of solutions, there's lots of marketing ideas out there. Life insurance as a retirement plan is LIRP is the one that I often see. It's typically buying too much insurance and not focused as much on the cash value buildup inside of it. So what ends up happening is that later on in life, in your 70s and 80s, your cash value is getting depleted by the cost of insurance. If you do it the right way, you buy the least amount of insurance to focus on cash value buildup so that it can generate that tax-free income down the road. And as to, are you conservative or aggressive? And the other component of it is, what else are you doing? Do you have 529 plans? Are you participating in a retirement plan? And that's the thing that happens is they're pitched this solution and they're not even maximizing their 401k plan. They're not doing an IRA. They're not doing all of these other things. You have to do all that first before you even entertain doing a whole life policy.
That's why we believe the initial engagement that we make with any client is a custom financial plan. And I'm a firm believer that that needs to be in place before any product solutions investments even get talked about.
Yep.
So let's dig into that a little bit further. So we talked about the various types of insurance. We talked about sort of the term for your prototypical, I just want to protect my family, God forbid there's a loss.
Yep.
Now let's talk about some of the more advanced strategies, just at a high level, because insurance can be used at times to be a really tax efficient vehicle. It can be used for some advanced planning, some estate type concepts. Maybe just give us a few ideas at a broader level of how you can use insurance strategically, and then maybe how some of the higher net worth people out there that you see are doing that to ultimately use it for more than just protection.
Absolutely. So yeah, I mean, the permanent solutions can be used for estate planning, whatever, their need is, whether it's on a federal level or the state level or both, or just purely wealth transfer strategies. I think that I spend a lot of time talking to people about if they've met all of those other goals, they've checked the boxes of retirement planning, college savings, they're living within their means, and at the end of the year, they have a chunk of money left over that they would love to earmark for retirement. And if they could do a Roth, but they can't because they're making too much money to qualify for Roth. And if you're talking about a high income earner, the $7,000 or $8,000 that they can put into a Roth really isn't as meaningful to them. We show them how to create, regardless of what kind of permanent policy it is, but we show them how to build and custom design a permanent policy to build wealth inside of that vehicle to create the tax-free income down the road. What I'm spending also a lot of time right now talking about on the permanent side of the picture is using life insurance to address long-term care needs. Right. So a lot of people in their 50s have a parent, a grandparent, a relative that they've seen go through a long-term care event, and they've either seen three things happen. They had the wealth to self-insure. That doesn't always happen. They've seen them have to impoverish themselves and go on Medicaid to be able to qualify to get the long-term care coverage that way. Yep. Or they saw they had a long-term care policy of some form to cover that expense. And they basically come to their advisor or come to me and say, I don't want to go through that, what I've witnessed. So what can I do to protect that? So we'll create a strategy and solution that will meet their needs there for that. One of the other strategies that I've been using permanent policies for is there's a lot of people, especially in this area of the US, that are very fortunate enough to have built wealth that they never envisioned having, whether it's through their real estate, through their company. They were, a business owner and they just had a huge liquidity event that they sold their business for something that they never envisioned, doing. Whatever it might be, they have a lot more wealth than they ever envisioned. And they have a huge qualified plan that they're not going to need anymore. And a qualified plan, whether it's a 401k, 403b, IRAs, doesn't matter what kind of qualified plan it is the most inefficient wealth transfer vehicle that you'll have, because you've had all the tax benefits on the front end. And now when you start taking money out, it's taxable at whatever your ordinary income bracket is then. And if you die with that asset, it's taxable to the beneficiaries. So we talk about a strategy of, hey, while you're young, instead of waiting till you're 73, it's soon going to be 75 to take required minimum distributions. Let's start taking it out in your 60s when you're younger and healthier. And I'm surprised I haven't brought it up yet, but I usually in every conversation say you're never younger or healthier than you are today. Right. Let's talk about doing that now. Start pulling it out. You can address the taxes other ways when you start taking it out. So instead of doing a Roth conversion, we're going to start taking money out, net the taxes, and using life insurance to make it a tax-free transfer to the next generation and do some other planning, and you can maybe wrap a long-term care benefit onto that.
Let's unwrap that a little bit, because that's a concept that I get asked about fairly often. All right, so for those that don't understand what Dan's talking about, the required minimum distribution is on your qualified plans. For most folks, it's a 401k or a IRA or a FB for some. So you've got to take the money out. Today it's 73, and that is likely going to get pushed back. Instead of taking the money, then you're saying, let's start taking the withdrawals on those accounts. Let's call it in their 60s, right? We're going to pay the taxes, right? Because that money hasn't been taxed yet. Now tell us what happens there from an insurance perspective. What are we doing with that paycheck that we're receiving and paying taxes on in that moment?
So Unlike a Roth conversion, so that's a Roth conversion is certainly one of the options that you can do with that. You can start taking the money out of the IRA money or the 401k money and putting it into a Roth IRA. So you're taking out of one and building up the other. It's not necessarily a challenge, but if you take out $50,000 from that Roth, from the IRA to put into the Roth, you have to reinvest $50,000 back into the Roth and have the tax liability paid from some other source. What I recommend is take out the $50,000, net the $30,000 after tax. So you're taking, whatever your withholding that is that you need, pay the taxes on that, take the $30,000 now, and maybe you take the full amount or maybe some of it and fund that into an insurance policy's premium to usually buy insurance that covers the full amount of what the IRA or qualified value is. So if say you have $1 million IRA, let's take out what you need to buy an insurance policy that will get you $1 million now tax-free to your beneficiaries. And you can control how you're taxed on that as you're taking out a little at a time. So instead of waiting to do the required minimum distribution, start taking it out a little bit now. And maybe you can do some tax harvesting with some of your other assets that you have to offset the tax that you're going to do that. So that's how you're funding your insurance policy every year to create a tax-free transfer. It's basically like doing a Roth conversion. But the other question that I always get is, wouldn't I be better off doing, taking it out of this and putting it into the S&P 500? And the answer is maybe. It all comes down to how long do you plan on living? If you're going to live another 40 years, yeah, you might be better off doing that into an S&P 500 index or something like that. But what happens if you pass away next year or 10 years from now or within the next 20 years? You've leveraged life insurance by using this strategy to have that death benefit from day one. So it's like a Roth on steroids is what I...
Right. So for those that are following along, if I've got the $1 million IRA and I'm taking, let's call it $50,000 a year distributions off of that, yes, I'm going to pay taxes on it. So it goes down to 30. I'm then funding a life insurance policy that's effectively covering the million. Now, if I were to pass, the IRA is fully taxable to my heirs, but that life insurance policy is not taxable.
Exactly. And the other component of it that people don't remember is the Secure Act changed the distribution rules on IRAs. So it used to be that you had the ability to, if I inherited my dad's IRA, I can stretch out the distributions over my life expectancy. Right. Now, when I inherit an IRA, I have to have it spent in 10 years. Right. So what ends up happening is I inherit that $1 million IRA from my dad, and I'm in my 40s or 50s. I'm earning a lot of money. I don't want to have a tax hit right now. So I push it off. Now it's 10 years later. I'm still in a high tax bracket, and now I have to take the whole thing out all at once. And that $1 million IRA now throws me into a whole different realm of taxation. And I end up walking away with maybe $500,000-$600,000 if I'm lucky. So why not, do it when you're, able to and spread that liability out over time? Because, usually by, early 60s, hey, I'm not going to need this for my retirement income. So let's do some planning. So the other two things that I would say is, life insurance sometimes creates more estate. So in some instances, depending on how much insurance you're ending up buying, you might want to have some conversation with an estate planning attorney and create a trust so that a trust owns that policy, so that you're not creating more estate. Maybe you're on the cusp of estate planning. We don't know where the numbers are going to go. I mean, the sunset that was supposed to happen January of this year got punted down the road. Right. It's going to change probably 5 or 6 more times over the next 30 years. So who knows where that's going to go.
We might learn some things. We might learn some things this weekend on all of that.
Yeah,
actually.
Who knows? The other thing is that that's now perhaps because someone in that situation might also have been on the fence to talk about long-term care. This is now your source to fund your long-term care. So that might be a way to do that as well. It could kill two birds with one stone, make it a more efficient wealth transfer vehicle, but also get the long-term care strategy covered as well.
Very cool. Very cool. Thanks for sharing. You've got a ton of knowledge on this. And my summary and my advice to anyone listening would be, number one, insurance can be complex, especially if you're getting outside of the realm of just traditional term. Term doesn't have a whole lot of complexities to it, but anything outside of that can be complex. It doesn't mean that it's bad, because I think it necessarily sometimes gets a negative connotation, but it can't be sold to you in a vacuum. right? It can't be
Absolutely.
sold to you. It can't just be sold to you as you need this. You need to have a comprehensive plan that looks at all aspects of your financial situation, your goals, near term and long term, to be able to understand where the fit may be. And I think your conversation around this helps to shed a little bit of light on that. So thank you. All right, Dan. So we're going to shift gears a little bit. We're going to get to know you a little bit better. So we're entering into, I think it's my favorite segment of the podcast, and that's the lightning round. All right. So here's the deal with the lightning round. I'm going to ask you a question. Just give me the first thought that comes to your mind. It could be a one-word answer. It could be a long, drawn-out thought. Whatever makes sense for you, you let it roll with it. Okay.
Sounds good.
All right. Let's do it. Coffee or tea?
Coffee. Every day, have to have it.
All right. Sounds good. One meal for the rest of your life. What is it?
Oh, I love steaks, but I'm trying to eat healthier these days. So a nice robust salad with some black and grilled chicken on it.
Oh, that sounds good. I can get behind that. Love it.
Yeah.
All right. What's one tool or piece of technology? It could be hardware or software, other than your computer or your phone, that you can't live without.
I will hold it up right here. And
Okay.
I wish I got commissions for it. It's called the Remarkable.
Yes, I know the Remarkable. I bought it as a gift once, actually.
It's an electronic notebook that has saved my life. I mean, in the insurance world, I used to have tons and tons of paper. Now I take all my notes right here. I have the dreaded lefty handwriting that I cannot read. So instead of having to scribble things out in a notebook, you can write something, you can erase it. It's saved my life and made me so much more efficient. Someone can send me a PDF and I can download it onto this, sign it, mark it up and then email it back to them. It's been a lifesaver for me.
Very cool. Very cool. Yeah, I bought that as a gift and I got very good feedback on it. So good to hear. All right.
I wish I've gotten commissions on the amount of times I've showed people.
This is not an ad for Remarkable. This is not an ad for Remarkable, but
Exactly.
maybe we wish it was. Do you have a favorite quote or phrase about money or success?
I honestly no. I'm trying to think of one, I say it in what I do every day when having conversations. I just mentioned, that you're never younger and healthier than you are today.
Love it.
Because I think it's human nature to procrastinate. And, with what I do, it's important to act sooner than later. And I can't tell you how many conversations I have with people that in some instances, it's just too late. They're either too old and the cost of it is just too expensive, or they have a health issue now that is just going to prohibit them from getting what they need.
Well said. Do you have a favorite book on finance or business?
I be honest, I haven't read anything recently, but back in my days when I was at a company called Wood Logan, we used to get a lot of good books. And I remember reading The Great Boom Ahead by Harry Dent.
Okay, good.
And that was interesting. I'm trying to remember what the Dow number was. I think it was 30. Was it 30,000? I think in his first book. And look at where we are today. I mean, you never would have thought that the numbers that you could see. I mean, you're seeing 1,000-point swing in the market. Think the sky is falling. You're like, oh, it's really less than 1%.
It's a blip on the radar.
Yeah,
right?
It's not that good. Yeah.
All right, I like it. One bucket list item that you've already accomplished.
Getting into shape and working on my health.
Okay.
I was so focused on work and the family and everything. And I got to a point about 7 or 8 years ago that I said, you're not getting any younger. It's time to live healthier, be more active. I'm a tennis player, mountain biker. I like to exercise. And trying to be more conscious in eating better. I lost at one point 55 pounds. And
good for you.
And I vowed I will never get back to that weight again. I wasn't there for very long, but I'm trying to maintain where I am today. So, trying to live a healthier lifestyle. I want to travel more. So that's a bucket list that I have in mind to do. And from a career standpoint, becoming my own boss and independent, moving away from the corporate world. It was a bucket list that I didn't know I had at the time, but now that I've done it, I'm so grateful to be, to make your own destiny. And, instead of working for someone that, controls what happens in your world, both financially and career-wise, it's nice to be able to kind of dictate where you want to go.
I can relate to that.
Yeah.
Well said.
You've done that.
Exactly. All right, last one. If you could give one piece of advice to your younger self, what would it be?
Get out of your comfort zone. Take advice from people that have been in a business for whatever business it is that you're in, and network. Go out for coffee. Go out for lunches. Meet for happy hours, and just interview people on what's making them successful and try and emulate them and build it into your day-to-day practice.
I love it. And then lastly, if our listeners want to connect with you, collaborate, work with you, what's the best way to reach or connect with you?
My cell phone is the best way to reach me, 914-494-7929, or shoot me an email at dwice@americanbusiness.com. I'm on LinkedIn. Yep. Connect with me on LinkedIn. Shoot me a message. Always open to do a Zoom call. Always open to meet for lunch or coffee and talk about things.
I love it. I love it. Dan, thanks so much for sharing your insights today. This was super valuable. I know I learned a bunch. I'm sure our listeners did as well. That's it for our episode. As always, prioritize your version of a rich life. Cheers, everybody.
Thank you.